It's important to create a vibe and atmosphere where everyone in the data team feels like they can come up with the cool new ideas and try them out. But at the same time, we need to make sure the team knows that it's important to focus on ideas that actually help the business. It's like, hey, let's try new stuff and see what works, but let's also make sure it's useful and get the job done, right? It goes back to result driven. You always want to bring the results. You don't want to just spin your wheels for no reason.
Liya Aizenberg, it's great to have you on the show.
Glad to be here, Adil.
So you are the director of data engineering at waytravel.com and have been managing data engineering teams for a while now. So maybe to set the stage for our conversation, what makes an effective data engineering team?
There are few things I highlighted for myself that I find important to be data engineering successful. Is trust, collaborative work, not afraid to make mistakes, transparency, and knowledge exchange opportunities. People should have an opportunity to exchange the knowledge within the team. I can go deep dive into each and everything I identified.
So we'll definitely deep dive into those. What we want to focus on first maybe is, building a data engineering team from scratch, right? If we take a step back, you mentioned, building the right team, knowledge exchange, building trust, collaboration, right? If you're building a data team from scratch, there's tons of data leaders listening here on the episode, right? Trying to build their own data engineering teams as well. Let's focus maybe first on the type of roles that you would hire, right? What type of profiles do you look for in an early data engineering team? Or as an early hire in a data engineering team?
I would say the first thing, I think I identified the important traits for myself. I'm looking for a spark and passion for the data and passion to learn new things. Good understanding and knowledge of data engineering principles are very important. I find this, and good personality, open-minded, eager to learn and help others. I find this important. And passion about data and empower your teammates.
Okay, great. And then, you mentioned here kind of the personality. If you deep dive into it a bit more, what are the cultural traits that you look for in an early data engineering hire?
I'm looking for the friendly and open-minded people. I value people who take ownership of their work. People who always finish what they start. Sometimes people get sidetracked, not finishing things, starting one thing, then sidetracked to do something else. So I value the people who finish what they started, not easily distracted. Also good communicators, people who speak out. It's very important to speak out. And also the people who are not afraid to change, because our industry evolves all the time. There are a lot of changes. Even within the one company can be a lot of changes, and people who are not afraid and easily adapt to the change are very important. And also result-driven folks are very important. It's an amazing trait. So you want to see the result. You want to make sure that whatever you do, you produce the result and outcomes for organization.
Yeah, that's really great. I couldn't agree more on results driven, especially, we're going to talk about, how to focus on the right projects that matter, because that's a big trap that data teams can fall in. And maybe, we talked about the cultural traits, but, in an early data engineering hire, I'm sure, the technical skill set is so wide. The data engineering ecosystem is so fragmented. It's so, there's so many tools, so many skills to adopt here. What are kind of the technical skills you also look for in an early data engineering team?
That's a good question. It's very important. Like today, I'm looking for the foundation of the every data engineer should have a good knowledge of a Python, SQL, and relation and non-relationship databases. This is foundational. Full in knowledge of relation, non-relational database, as well as the Python. Also, there are a lot of hot items today on the market. It's very good to have a knowledge of virtualization tools such as Looker and Tableau, because you build all your data marts, you build all your data, but you actually need to serve this data to the business. So visualization tools are important. That's the tools you're serving your data with. Like name a few: Looker, Tableau. There are very good integration tools that are available today. Stage, Fivetran, Matillion are currently in demand. Knowledge of DBT is important. This is the tool that you build your SQL models. So but I want to highlight SQL and Python.
I mean, SQL is the lingua franca of data, whether you're a data engineer or a data scientist or a data analyst. And when you mention kind of these canonical tools that you mentioned, kind of DBT, Matillon, SQL skills, what stands out for you as today is kind of like the must-have tool knowledge, especially in a modern data engineering team that you need to have, outside of, traditional tools like, here I see a traditional quote unquote, but between Python and SQL.
I think any knowledge of iPaaS solution, it's integration platform as a service. It's a good knowledge of integration tools, knowledge of Airflow. That's a knowledge of the any cloud, AWS, GCP, Azure. Any of this knowledge of the one of these clouds or multiple clouds is very important today.
Okay, that's really great. And as the team grows and becomes more complex, at what point do you decide when it's time to bring in specialists? Like, what kind of roles do you start looking for? What are those specialist skills looking like? And yeah, walk me through that.
First, you always want to see if you have a potential specialist already within your team, or if you can rise one up, right? You want to empower the growth of your immediate team first. As a leader, I have a periodical check-ins with my team members. So I have a good understanding and good knowledge what is people want to do, how they're going to move forward in their career. But there are cases when your project is required very specific expertise and you don't have it within your team, and you have no time to train your folks. In this case, in this situation, I usually source the expertise outside of the company to make sure the project is moved forward. We're not blocking anyone, so everything goes to plan. But however, it's important to pair up this external expert, together with your team members, so knowledge stays internally and your folks are learning something new, right? So it's very important to pair them up, work so they can work together. Your team members can learn new things and while working along the side of this external SME.
Yeah, that's really great. And you mentioned here kind of bringing up people to become specialists, right? And that, growing people and training them. What does that look like in practice? I'd love to know kind of, how you've approached upskilling data engineering teams so that they can specialize into, their, respective specialist roles.
As you grow your data engineering team, once you have your periodical check-ins, you have understanding. Some people would like to be technical managers. Some people would like to be people managers. Not everyone want to be people manager. Not everyone want to be technical manager. So you work with your folks to see what's the interest of theirs. And you also identify the strengths of your team members. And based on the strengths, you give them you assign them to the project, give them the work to do, and based on their interest. It's very important to grow your team and keep their interest and keep them excited of the work they do.
And we've been really focused on the talent side of building a data engineering team, but I think a big question that a lot of data engineering teams, especially new ones, have to face is what is the tech stack that we want to invest in, right? We mentioned between AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, right? As a cloud service, there's so many different data pipelining tools that one can use, right? Can you walk us through how you make a decision of what tech stack to adopt as a data engineering team, and what are the factors that you look in to guide these decisions?
I'm true believer you don't need to have a tons of different tech be successful. I believe less is more. I choose the tools based on their ability to scale, how future-proof they are. Also, what kind of level of expertise I have within my team, right? I don't want to bring completely something net new that my team has no idea how to deal with. And also, the price tag of these tools is also very important. You want to make sure that you're not overpaying and you're staying within your budget and cost efficient.
oftentimes as a data engineering leader, when you're, making these decisions on a tech stack, right? You mentioned kind of simplicity of tools and like not having a lot of tools. Why do you think a lot of data engineering teams tend to fall in the trap of buying so many tools and getting so many tools? And like, how do you avoid that as a data engineering leader?
It's very important to choose the stack that's easy to maintain and adapt, and also easy to find the talent that will actually support it moving forward. So you don't want to have that tool, like multiple tools that doing the same thing. You want to make sure, because it's just waste of money, right? So two things to highlight here: the tools that easily maintain, easy to adopt, the tools you can find the talent, and you don't want to have the tools that overlap, like doing the same thing.
So let's switch gears here and talk about what makes a data engineering team value driven, right? You mentioned earlier in our discussion when talking about what makes a data engineering team successful, right? It is that it is, focuses on value and is results driven, right? A big risk that we discussed behind the scenes is that data teams can generally fall into the trap of building shiny toys, that generate little business value, but are really exciting to put on a resume, right? I think like, it's deep learning model or this, machine learning pipeline that doesn't necessarily drive a lot of business value. Maybe you walk us through why this dynamic still exists today, and how do you avoid that as a data engineering leader?
As a leader, I'm responsible for bringing visibility to the data engineering across our organization. I build partnerships. I usually build a partnership across the organization with various business teams and functions like marketing, finance, analytics, product. We work closely together on the company's strategy and roadmap. Eventually, these teams become my team stakeholders, right? Data engineering work gets prioritized and aligned based on their business objectives. This approach allows data engineers to understand the bigger picture company-wide, and also helps to identify company-wide challenges and the goals. Right? It also helps my team prioritize its initiatives, and that's how I ensure that data engineering team produces value-driven outcomes.
Yeah. And you're talking here about building interlocks, right? Building interlocks with the finance team, with the revenue operations team, with the different stakeholders within the organization. Maybe what does a good successful interlock look like? What does successful collaboration look like with other teams here?
You want your business stakeholders to be data savvy, thinking as a resource that can be used in many different ways. That's why it is important to educate and show to your business partners what is possible from the data standpoint. A product manager plays a critical role, actually, in effective collaboration between data engineering and business. He kind of sits in the middle between technical and business. It's important that feedback loop has to be established between business and data engineering. Feedback is super important, as well as a regular check-in. So when you have a regular check-ins to see how things are going and figuring out what could be done better, that's definitely improved the collaboration between a business and data engineering teams. And it's improved how they work over time. Another thing I want to highlight, it's alignment on the goals, right? So we all align, data team and business. So we all aligned and on the same page what we're trying to achieve together. This means the understanding how the data can help the business to succeed and make sure the data team's goals. The data team goals is to make a business better and to be a good partner across the company.
Okay, and you're talking here about kind of building partnerships with all of the company. I'm sure as a data engineering leader, it becomes really hard to prioritize what is the most valuable thing I can do for the company right now. So how do you quantify different projects? What that will deliver business value? Like how do you prioritize the roadmap?
Usually, the projects that get prioritized first is the one who actually address critical business needs, right? Projects that also contribute into revenue generation, cutting cost, or other KPIs. It's always good to figure out if there are any low-hanging fruits. If there are any something we can do with a relatively low level of effort, but deliver a measurable value. Any quick wins out there, like any quick wins we can get. If we find any type of quick win, it's a good thing to prioritize that.
And when you look at certain projects, a data engineering team does, sometimes a lot of that work is invisible, right? Like, for example, building a data platform or, um, improving the integration of one data set to another. How do you look at the value of these projects? How do you quantify the ROI of these types of projects?
Let's say we implemented a feature that recommends additional products for the customer purchase. Let's say you have something in your cart, and we build a project that recommends the product based on the current content of your shopping cart. This feature plan to improve a conversion rate. So if you like you have a product recommendation, and we're committing you to buy another product. So we're trying to improve the conversion rate. In this case, we would be monitoring a percentage increase in conversion rate using like various A/B testing functionality. That's how would you quantify. So if we build a product and this project drove increase of conversion rate, that is considered successful.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some projects that actually doesn't have intangible benefits. It's very hard to measure. Like, for example, let's say data team develops a new feature that provides a customer with visibility to their order step-by-step progress. Like, I'm in retail, so I'm talking orders and shopping carts. So let's say you place an order, but you don't see the visibility how it progresses. Now you have an opportunity to see that your order has been received, it's been processed, the payment been taken. So you see the detailed progression of your order, right? We cannot measure the benefits of that project, but we know that it will drive a high customer satisfaction, right? And we can obtain this information like using different surveys, different customer feedbacks, but it's actually not intangible and cannot be measured, like conversion rate, for example.
Yeah, that's great. Because this is what oftentimes when I think about is that, our data engineering team makes a data set available at DataCamp to analyze by business users, right? Like, how do you measure the success of the ROI of, a feature that is dependent on other teams using it, for example? So like maybe kind of to reframe the question, how do you ensure that as a data engineering leader, that your partners are leveraging the newly built data that is now available by data engineering teams?
If a customer data platform has been built, right, and we give the requirement was to build a unified customer data platform, and this. So working closely with marketing, we can help them build a customer segmentation, for example. We give them a visualization tools that they can use to actually segment segment their customer base based based on their data that we based on the customer data platform we built. You empower business folks through education of the data, of showcasing what's possible, and again, working together to ensure data is used. Visualization tools are a good place to start.
We've been talking a lot about how data engineering teams can, drive value and prioritize the roadmap and focus on value-driven But I think an important thing to think about here is how you can be iterative and agile as a data engineering team, right? So being agile is something data teams across the board need to, adopt more or are slightly less mature than software engineering in general, right? So maybe what does agile look like for data engineering teams?
I think it's important to be flexible and adapt quickly. If something unplanned comes up, the team adjusts and moves forward without creating friction and roadblocks. Collaboration, teamwork, really important. So we need to rely on each other to do their part. Similar as in team sports, so you have to rely that your teammates will be doing what they need to do. Business strategy changes frequently. Ability to adapt is important, and flexibility. Ability to pivot into different direction if need be.
Okay, great. And then, we're talking about here kind of, being able to be flexible and to pivot. But sometimes when looking at massive projects that data engineering teams undergo, such as, a building a data platform or, building an entirely new data collection pipeline, right? Uh, how are data engineering teams able to kind of piecemeal these types of projects in a way that incrementally drives value? How have you approached this in the past?
If you have a big project on your plate, I usually look at this as a building the house, right? Instead of trying to build the entire house at once, you start with basic, a solid foundation, walls, and the roof. This is your MVP, the minimum version of the house that's functional and serves the purpose of providing shelter. Same goes to the project. As the project progresses, additional features and functionality are added into the solution in small incremental steps, right? It's like adding rooms, furniture, decorations to the house over time. Make it more comfortable and functional as you go. Um, first would be first we build the required MVP, minimum valuable product, and after MVP is delivered, we start to prioritize additional features based on the value that they will be driving for organization.
So, when you're building an MVP, how do you ensure that the MVP delivers value, right? Like, how do you define what an MVP looks like depending on the project, for example?
This MVP have to be defined together with the stakeholders. So we collaborated to identify what this MVP should look like for a given project, and identify what features are required and what features are actually nice to have. It can be delivered later. So they get prioritized. The foundation has to build regardless. We need the walls, we need the roof, all of this stuff. But then you prioritize the features based on the way they drive the value for the business. Start small, win big. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Pick a manageable project and break it down into the small short sprints, like mini projects. So it lets you see the benefits of agile quickly, and make adjustments as you progress.
And, given the above, like what is the advice that you would give data engineering leaders here looking to adopt agile methodologies? How would you recommend that they start small in their next big project, for example?
Work closely with your product. A product manager is your I would say your business voice, right? Work closely with your product manager. Work closely with your business and define what is the important for organization at this particular time, right? And like I said, start small, win big, one step at a time, and prioritization and value is defined together with business stakeholders and product managers.
Okay, that's really great. And then, we've been talking about how data engineering teams can be agile and can drive a lot of value, and we also talked about how uh, data engineering teams can be results driven, right, and focus on uh, projects that matter, right? I'm sure we alluded to this earlier in our discussion about the risk of pursuing shiny toys, right? And I know now with generative AI, we see a lot of hype today about the importance of building generative AI tools and generative AI kind of product features, right? Do you find there's an increased risk of building something shiny and not necessarily useful here? How do you balance that as a data engineering leader?
It's important to create a vibe and atmosphere where everyone in the data team feels like they can come up with the cool new ideas and try them out. But at the same time, we need to make sure the team knows that it's important to focus on ideas that actually help the business. It's like, hey, let's try new stuff and see what works, but let's also make sure it's useful and get job done, right? It goes back to result driven. You always want to bring the results. You don't want to just spin your wheels for no reason. You want to bring the results. You want to bring the valuable outcome. Let's experiment. but let's concentrate on tools and functionalities that actually bring the value to the business we are in currently.
And with the context of generative AI, what is the role of the data engineering team necessarily in kind of building these tools? Like, how do you see kind of data engineering teams building generative AI? Like, what's the role of the data engineering team in building generative AI use cases?
Primarily, I see data engineering team responsible for actually bringing the data over from all different sources. Generative AI would require a lot of data from a lot of different sources to be placed in a one spot for actually models to work and use this data. Primarily focus of data engineering actually to bring this data over, possibly stitch it together so the models can be used this data for learning and training. So responsibility actually to bring this data over and stitch it together for models and data science folks to use.
And do you find that the data engineering skill set will have to evolve, for example, to build, retrieval augmented generation pipelines or to build, really specific type of pipelines unique to generative AI use cases? Like, how do you see the skill set of data engineering teams evolve over the next few years as generative AI becomes more prevalent?
What I see is that a volume of data changing. So we will need to adapt the skills and tools that can process large amounts of data. And like I said, that space and skills are evolving all the time. And whatever we did 10 years ago, it doesn't make sense today. And obviously, I see the same thing happening in 10 years from now. So we need to adapt, we need to learn, we need to stay on top of what's going on in today's data world. Again, large data data sets, we will need a lot of storage and a lot of horsepower to process all of that and build actually something valuable.
Yeah, 100%. I think we see a lot of use cases, but not a lot of value yet. And then maybe as we close out our conversations, Liya, what are, trends that you're seeing in the data engineering space? As we're talking about generative AI, we're talking about different tools. What are trends that you look in the data engineering space that you're excited about, that you're looking forward to seeing in the next few years? Or, next few years is going to be maybe hard to predict, but in the next 12 months?
I see a lot of chatbots being used. So I see a lot of I see a lot of changes in adapting the like a lot of I don't think we're there yet in full speed. I think we're just taking a small incremental steps towards AI. I don't think everybody 100% understand what's going on. It can be not 100% oriented to what's happening in the field. I think we just take again small steps and learn and try different things, see what sticks, what works. And try to be creative and don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? If there is something exists, let's reuse it, let's use it, let's see what we can adopt. Again, it's a lot of unknown and a lot to learn still for everyone in this space.
I couldn't agree more. And maybe as we close out our chat, Liya, do you have any final notes to share with the audience?
I would say experiment. Don't afraid to fail. Learn from your mistake, and don't forget to have fun with it. It's unknown for everyone. There are not a lot of experts in the fields at this moment, so we're all learning together. And ask questions, right? Ask questions. Reach out to your teammates. Reach out to your partners, and learn. Keep learning, and don't forget to have fun. That's important.
Definitely have fun. That is very, very important. Thank you so much, Liya, for coming on DataFriend.
Thank you, Adil, for having me. It was a pleasure.